For years, they were seen as the perfect couple, the respected judge with her sharp mind and flawless poise, and the soulful Randy B. singer known for his romantic ballads and charming smile. Judge Faith Jenkins and Kenny Lattimore embodied the idea of black excellence in love. They were polished, elegant, and inspiring. But behind the glamorous red carpet photos and public appearances was a private pain so deep that Judge Faith could no longer keep it hidden. Now at 47, she's finally breaking her silence and sharing the heartbreak, betrayal, and quiet suffering that ended the marriage she once believed would last a lifetime. From the outside, their story seemed like a fairy tale. Judge Faith Jenkins had built a respected career as a legal analyst, television personality, and advocate for women and justice. Kenny Lattimore, on the other hand, was a Grammy-nominated singer whose smooth voice made him a staple of Randy B. love songs. When they married in March 2020, it was more than a union, it was a cultural moment. Faith wore a stunning white gown, and Kenny looked every bit the dashing groom. Social media was flooded with images from their elegant, star-studded wedding. Celebrities, influencers, and fans alike showered them with love, celebrating what seemed to be the start of a beautiful new chapter. But behind the picture-perfect images were signs of strain, cracks that began to show early on but were hidden from the public eye. Judge Faith was a woman of structure, discipline, and ambition. She had spent years building her career and crafting a life rooted in excellence. Kenny, though talented and accomplished in his own right, reportedly struggled with the dynamic of being in a marriage where his wife's star was still rising while his own career had plateaued. According to close sources, the dynamic between them was increasingly tense. While Judge Faith was producing legal shows, mentoring young women, and making powerful appearances on national platforms, Kenny was reportedly growing distant and, at times, resentful. One insider described it as tense behind closed doors but polished in public. Both knew how to present well, but the emotional disconnect was becoming impossible to ignore. And even during their most publicly celebrated moments, Faith reportedly had a quiet voice in the back of her mind asking, "Did I make the right decision?" What makes this story even more heartbreaking is how deeply she tried to save the marriage. She encouraged therapy, honest communication, and even spiritual counseling. She believed in the power of love and was committed to fighting for it. But as time went on, things didn't get better, they got worse. So what exactly happened? According to those close to Judge Faith, the red flags were subtle at first. Kenny appeared to support her dreams, praising her ambition and drive. But in private, his behavior didn't always match his words. He allegedly became emotionally unavailable, sometimes controlling, and often sensitive to situations where he wasn't the center of attention. One source claimed, he wanted to be the head of the household, but he didn't want to do the work that came with that title. Faith, meanwhile, was not only managing her demanding career but also trying to maintain the emotional and financial foundation of their home. The biggest blow reportedly came when Faith discovered inconsistencies in their financial dealings. While he was not accused of infidelity or criminal behavior, Kenny allegedly made misleading claims about shared assets, unpaid debts, and financial opportunities. He told her certain bills were handled or investments secured, but when Faith dug deeper, she reportedly uncovered documents that told a very different story. When she confronted him, sources say he became defensive instead of remorseful. Rather than admitting fault or showing concern, he allegedly shifted the blame, accusing her of being controlling and questioning her loyalty. It was in this moment Faith realized she was in a partnership where trust, transparency, and teamwork had all eroded. And it didn't stop there. According to insiders, the emotional manipulation became more pronounced. Kenny reportedly began gaslighting her, questioning her perceptions, minimizing her concerns, and twisting conversations to make her feel like the problem. At times he was apologetic, only to withdraw emotionally the next moment, creating a cycle of confusion and self-doubt. The most devastating realization came when Faith found out that Kenny had been using her name, her image, and her reputation to secure opportunities without her consent. From business meetings to public events, he allegedly operated as though they were a united front, when in reality, there was a widening gap between them that he refused to acknowledge. This wasn't just about marriage anymore, it was about betrayal on every level. Still, Judge Faith didn't rush to speak publicly. She processed the pain privately for months. She prayed. She sought advice. She gave herself time to grieve the dream she had once cherished so deeply. And then, in a quiet but powerful moment, she began to speak, not in tabloid headlines or angry social media rants, but in truth. In an interview that quickly went viral, she didn't name names, but she didn't have to. Her words were raw and real. She spoke about the silent suffering of strong women, the ones who hold everything together while breaking down behind closed doors. She talked about the emotional cost of pretending everything is okay just to protect someone who refuses to protect you in return. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do, she said, is walk away. Not because you're weak, but because you finally realize your peace matters more than public perception. The reaction was immediate. The internet exploded. Fans were shocked. Some defended Kenny, confused by the silence on his end. Others praised Faith for her courage. But the silence from Kenny only fueled speculation. No statement. No defense. No acknowledgement. As the narrative evolved, more details surfaced. Friends of Faith began to speak out. Kenny, they claimed, had quietly positioned himself as the victim in private circles, suggesting he couldn't keep up with Faith's strong personality, and painting her as difficult. This strategy may have worked with some, but Faith was done staying quiet. She didn't lash out. She didn't spill every detail. Instead, she let her actions speak louder than words. She returned to her purpose. She realigned her platform. Her social media shifted from curated couple moments to honest reflections, soft visuals, and motivational messages. One post in particular stood out: "Your peace is not negotiable. Your voice matters. And silence isn't always strength." That single quote resonated with thousands. Faith had become a voice for women navigating silent heartbreak. She began taking on more speaking engagements, mentorships, and advocacy work. On a podcast, she revealed, "I realized I was shrinking myself to make someone else feel bigger. And that's not love. That's survival." She never needed to expose every detail. Her transformation spoke volumes. And then came the moment that shook social media again. During a panel discussion on emotional resilience, Judge Faith said, "Just because someone sings love songs doesn't mean they know how to love in real life." With that one line, she reclaimed the story, not with bitterness, but with clarity. So what were the lies? They weren't always loud or scandalous. They were the quiet kind, the lie of emotional availability, where presence without intimacy left her feeling unseen. The lie of support, where jealousy replaced celebration. And the lie of future promises, spoken dreams that were never backed by real action. Faith believed in the marriage. She showed up, she fought for it, and when it broke down, she walked away with grace, not to expose, but to heal. Today,